When I need answers about anything to do with personal growth, I go straight to my mom and my aunt. Here they are, Priscilla Babin and Tina Gilliat with the sister sauce.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back
Hi.
to the Sister Sauce. I'm Priscilla, and I'm here with my sister Tina.
Hello.
Tina, what you doing today, Tina?
Recording my podcast. What are you
Oh,
doing?
same thing. What a coincidence. How's it going? Did you have a good Sisters Day?
I did. I enjoyed my sister's day, sharing pictures of my sister with all my friends on Facebook and wishing my sister a happy Sister's Day
Me too. What a coincidence.
and listening to our podcast about Sister's Day.
Yeah. Nice. Do you have any hot and spicy sauce today?
I do. I wanted to share for my hot sauce. I had seen a post on Facebook recently, and it was someone that is going through a rough time and was sort of venting about people not stepping up to help. And it's sort of one of those things where when you're having problems, you see who your real friends are. It was that kind of post, because certain people stepped up to help and certain people didn't. And I know she didn't mean anything really bad by it, but it made me think. I've shared this with other people that have gone through hurricanes and lost their houses because we went through that. You remember in 2012, we lost our house in Hurricane Isaac. And the hardest thing for me was not so much that people didn't step up to help. We got a lot of help from a lot of people, but people helped in the way they could. Some people donated old towels to us so we would have towels in our rental house, and some people donated money, some people came and helped us get our house. Everybody sort of helped the way they could help, and that was different for each person what they were able to do time wise and financially to help us. But we did get a lot of help, so many people that I had a hard time thanking people because I lost track after a while of all who helped us. But I remember a friend going through it about 3 or 4 years after me when their area flooded and they had, I think, 4 feet of water in their home. And I remember my friend getting really angry and saying, you can really tell who your friends are when this kind of thing happens because they don't want to step up and come and help. And, but then they're posting on Facebook that they went to a party or they did this or that. And I remember writing an article or a blog post about how to deal when you're going through a situation like that. And it was sort of, these are the do's and the don'ts, or the truths and the myths, or whatever it was. I don't remember how I worded it. But one of the things I mentioned in that blog post was that people around you, if it's not like a citywide thing or a nationwide thing, people around you are not going through what you're going through. And so they are going to continue to live their lives. Their babies are still going to be born and have birthday. Their children are going to still have birthdays, and they're still going to go on their date nights, and they don't stop living just because someone in their circle has experienced a loss. And it wasn't hard for me to understand that when I was going through what I was going through. I will say that sometimes I felt like people didn't understand. One person in particular that donated some stuff to us a week later was frustrated because she had not heard from me to say whether or not I liked what she dropped off. But at the time, we didn't even have a place to live. And so when I was told, hey, look, all this stuff's been dropped off for y'all, I asked the people that had received it to just hold on to it because we didn't have any place to put it. We didn't have a house. And so I didn't even have a chance to look at what she sent. And I was really frustrated. I thought, yeah, I really appreciate what they donated, but at the same time, you can't get mad at me. I'm in the middle of this situation. And we had the added burden of a child in the hospital 2 hours away from home. And so it was difficult. And I would get frustrated if people didn't see our way. But when it was all said and done, I recognized that people still had their own lives to live. And sometimes for them, they didn't get what we were going through. And so it's good to extend a little bit of grace and just remember that people don't necessarily have the ability to help. Some people are not equipped to help beyond making a $10 donation. And if they don't have any money, they may not even be able to help with that. So when you're going through a rough time, don't put too much burden on other people. Just take the help you can get and appreciate it for what it is, and allow people to help however they can. You don't know what's going on in their lives, and sometimes they don't know what's going on in your life. But in this particular case that I'm talking about, everybody supposedly knew what was going on, but certain ones stepped up and others didn't. And then a side piece of advice is, if you have a problem with people in your family or people in your friends circle, don't put it on Facebook. Talk to them directly, because the people that you're posting it about are just going to find it offensive and they're not going to learn from it. And the people you're not posting it about are going to feel like it looks bad on you to do that. So that's a whole side lesson to be learned. But that's my hot sauce, is when you're going through a rough time, share a lot of grace with other people, because they may not know how to help you. And even when they do, they may not be equipped to do it the way they think it needs to be done. So, some people struggle with mental health issues, and it's everything they can do to just get through the week. And to add to that, oh, by the way, we also expect you to help us because we're going through the struggle, is not really fair. You don't know what they're going through. So you have to kind of just take what you can get and be appreciative.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Good hot sauce.
Yeah. Thank you. I thought so too.
When you were talking about how other people's lives don't stop just because you've got stuff going on, your own life doesn't stop either.
True. That is true.
You still have to get, if you've had a death or you've had some other accident or tragedy or something major going on in your life, a health challenge, you still are expected to get your groceries, pay your bills, drive your kids to school or whatever. Your normal responsibilities don't magically go away.
This is true.
And, I think that adds an extra burden onto it. It's like salt in the wound, and
Yes,
I
it
think
sure
that makes
is.
people get bitter when they don't get people stepping up. But not, like you said, not everybody can step up because life is busy. Life is, we not just, a lot of us are not just taking care of ourselves. We have kids, we have elderly parents, we have, jobs or whatever, so.
Yep, for
It's
sure.
too much.
And the other part of it is, well, I was just going to say, it made me think of it like when Katrina hit New Orleans, everybody in the New Orleans area was going through something, right? Either you couldn't get back into your home, or your home was flooded and you couldn't get back in, or your office was flooded and you couldn't go to work. Or there were so many different aspects of that. But the one thing was that we all had in common that we were struggling in some way because of Hurricane Katrina. Whereas when my house flooded, it was only two small areas that flooded, Braithwaite and then Laplace flooded, two opposite ends of, well, not opposite ends, but opposite ends of greater New Orleans, if you want to say it that way. And it was interesting because it was normal life for most people in the greater New Orleans area, except for those two communities, Braithwaite and Laplace. And so that was a struggle for me because we weren't getting the support that everybody got during Katrina. I didn't lose my house in Katrina, but mom and dad did. And so I was there for that. And I saw all the help they got, and then we lose ours. And it's like, where's the city? Where is FEMA? Why is nobody helping us? But we had a lot of volunteers that came out and was just so appreciative. But the other piece of it that I was going to say was, especially when you need help, use your social media in a positive way to say, hey, I need help. If there's anybody that can help with this specific thing, please do. Because if you don't, and I know you learned that when you were going through some stuff, that if people may want to help, but if they don't know how to help and you don't articulate that to them, and it takes a lot of effort sometimes to say, oh, I do need to tell you how I need help. And we don't always recognize how we need help unless we take the time to think about it. And I think that was my biggest struggle when we were going through the loss of our house and then our child was 2 hours away. I was like, how can people help us? I don't even know. And then my friends started like prompting me. And my one friend said, surely there's some household appliance that you need. Whether it's something big like a washing machine, and we didn't want to get anything big because we knew we were going to be moving. So we rented a house that had all the washing machine and dryer and refrigerator and all, but we needed other things. We just didn't know who to articulate it to. And finally, one of my friends said, look, I'm telling people what y'all need. Give me a list. And I made this list and it was all this lower price stuff. And she said, come on, seriously? You probably need a new hair dryer. And I started thinking about it. I was like, no, so-and-so gave me a hair dryer. Oh, but you know what? I need a vacuum cleaner. And to this day, I still have that vacuum cleaner. It's fallen apart because it's 12 years old now, I think. Yeah, 12 years old. But it was such a blessing to get a vacuum cleaner because it was something we needed in the rental house. And yeah, things like broom and mop. I remember going to Sam's and Walmart and buying, when you buy groceries from scratch, how expensive it is.
Yes.
Because you're having to get like salt, pepper, soap, shampoo, all of that stuff that normally when you go grocery shopping, you're buying 1 or 2 items and maybe you buy salt once every year. But we had to buy every single thing because we lost everything. So it was interesting, but we did have a lot of people help us. And I was so thankful for that.
Yeah, I think it's even not even just when you've had something major tragedy, but like any kind of big change, like when people have a baby or whatever, it's like you freeze up, like a deer in the headlights.
Right.
You feel overwhelmed and you need somebody to talk to help pull, those ideas out of you, like inspire you to find a starting point. And once you find that starting point, like the list your friend meant, making a list, it all starts to tumble out. I think like the one idea, like when you sit down to make your grocery list, you start thinking of all the things. Oh, and we need this and we need that. And, and it's the same way when it's bigger needs or, the wider variety of kinds of things you might need help with, like transportation or babysitters or whatever. And so I feel like
it's true. And and you don't always think of everything. So it's a good idea to start writing it down. I remember for you, one of the things everybody was able to help you with when you were going through struggles, somebody had said to me, what can I do for Priscilla? And I'm like, I keep asking her the same thing and we don't know like how you can help. And then it hit me. I said, you know what you can do? You can give her fast food gift cards because she feels so guilty for spending money on fast food every night. but she just does not have time to cook right now. And once you got those cards and you were like, oh my gosh, this is life changing. I'm able to get food from my family that's already cooked from restaurants and fast food places and all. And I don't, so some, like, my point is sometimes you don't even realize what would be helpful until you actually get it. And then you go, wow, this is huge. I need more of this. Give me more of this. And I know a lot of people gave you cards, and that was awesome.
Yep.
So
Yep.
somebody,
That was a big thing because I was not able to spend that time in the kitchen. I just couldn't. I had to be, you know, I was on call 24/7, and I couldn't get
yeah,
distracted with, and especially me,
you
I
were
would
the
zone in
main
on something and
caregiver.
I'm here, and everything else could be falling apart and I wouldn't know. So,
Yeah, but and it's, yeah, I can totally relate to it because I feel like when PJ was in the hospital and we lost our house in the hurricane at the same time, I felt like I was clueless. And then it always seems to come like that, right? So then when AJ was in the hospital was when PJ died. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so much is going on. And you lose track. And I remember not being able to think straight at all. And I was so confused sometimes when people would say something to me. And yeah, it's really a strain. Well, you're going through so much stress and everything. Right. But I would say, like, right now we're dealing with AJ's cancer, and he started treatments this week and everything for radiation, and he's still got to do all the other stuff, and he's still going through more tests, um and a couple of people have already sent us like cards with money in it to go out to dinner. And I'm like, that is just so sweet, especially since AJ's our cook and he doesn't always feel good to cook anymore. I said they must look at us and say, AJ and Tina need money to eat because AJ's the cook, and if he's not feeling good, Tina's gonna starve to death. But it's just so sweet, so nice. And we've gotten one of AJ's friends sent him well, he's our friend. He sent AJ a coffee mug and with Sasquatch on it that said, "You done good." It's one of his little motto things that he does. And then he sent him 2 joke books, which we've been reading. AJ will say, "You need to laugh," and he'll open the joke book up and he'll say, read one of the jokes, and we laugh about it. And we've gotten a couple of other things like that too that are kind of fun. After he got all his teeth pulled, he got some fake teeth from one of our friends at church. And he said he can't wait for his mouth to heal so he can put the fake teeth in. So we'll see how that goes. But all right. Well, that was awesome. I didn't think you would get that into it. I did good.
We branched out. We always do.
Yeah. We always say that we don't know why we do so much research because all we need is one sentence to start the rolling. And we could talk for 2 hours about that one thing. So,
Like table topics.
yes, good old table topics. Except table topics, you're limited in Toastmasters anyway. You're limited to 1 to 2 minutes. I think you and I would get pulled up by a hook.
Yeah.
Guys talk too much, especially
Like the
me.
Gong Show.
I've never struggled with, sometimes when new Toastmasters come, new people come to Toastmasters, and we say, "Are you willing to participate in table topics?" You have to talk for 1 to 2 minutes, and they go, "A whole minute?" Like it's a horrible thing, and we're like, we wish we could limit our talk to 1 minute. We won't. We don't shut up.
Well, today we're going to talk about saving money on travel and also saving stress from travel because we're coming up on the end of summer here, and a lot of kids are going back to school. So a lot of people are either trying to I know here school starts a lot earlier. but around the country, a lot of people are taking their last minute vacations. And so this will get y'all ready for the whole next year planning travel.
Well,
Whether
it's true because I was saying to Livy the other day, I said, this to me is the time of year when everything starts moving fast because it's
Mhm.
like we were in Costco. Well, we were in there today, but we were in there a few weeks ago and I was shocked because they had the Halloween stuff out. And I'm like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh,
August is Halloween time. And
But
October is Christmas time. And
right, I
you
told
know,
Liv though, I said, man, I said, you better put your seatbelt on because Halloween is going to be here before you know it. And then it's like boom, 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 one thing after another. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Mardi Gras, and Valentine's Day. And it just, from now till February, it's going to be gone in the blink of an eye.
mhm.
Unless you're an 8-year-old kid and you're waiting for Santa Claus, then it's a different story.
Yep. I'm getting cold just talking about it.
I'm shedding my sweater over here and you're putting a blanket around you. So
AC's blowing on me.
well, you look nice and cozy.
Yes, now I am.
Well, let's talk about some ways to save money when traveling.
All right. We've got one article about how to travel on a budget, 17 ways to save money. And I don't know how to pronounce the name of the website.
I think it's Everky, huh?
Iverki.
Well,
This feels like one of those vines where they or TikTok where they say Da Vinci, you know, instead of Da Vinci.
yeah, I was
I
like
don't
interested in learning more about Everky, if I'm saying it right. And it is I mean, it's all about travel. Like, it's not just a page about travel on their website. The whole website is
oh,
dedicated to education about travel and also products and stuff. But yeah, I didn't really figure a whole lot about the company, like where they came from. But they have some good stories and stuff on their website. So,
mhm. Well, they first tell us that we need to plan our trip wisely. They say that we should choose off-peak times for travel. And so, you know, during the holidays and time in the summer, times when the kids are off school tend to be a little bit more pricey because the travel people know that and they want to bill higher, when the peak times are. I know from living in Florida, if you wanted to have a locals pass for Disney, it was you either had the peak time version of your Disney passes that was really expensive, or you could save a lot of money and they had blackout dates when you could not use your pass. And
hmm,
of course, they were all the really high
popular
peak
times.
times. Yeah. Which, don't get me wrong, that it's harder to travel with, especially with kids, and go do, a whole day of something, even if it's local, when you can't go in the peak times, because with kids, they're at school and you don't want to take them out of school, but they might have a day off or something. And if it's a local thing, you could take advantage of that, and then it's not as crowded. And I did appreciate that part. But yeah,
Yeah.
opting for the off-peak travel times. And I read something in a different article that this reminds me of, that said that there's usually a time that's called a shoulder period, which is between the low peak and the high peak. And those are supposed to be some of the best times to actually go places. And I think they said October to or September to November, and then March to May are supposed to be two of the best seasons that are shoulder times that you could get some good deals.
Yeah, I would say that's great. But I would recommend that you go visit the websites of the main places you want to visit. So say
Mhm.
you want to go to Disney World in an off-peak time. Go visit their website and make sure that the main attractions that you want to see are going to be open. I
Mm.
can remember going to certain amusement parks and things and discovering that the one thing we were most excited about was closed because it was off peak. And
Mm.
so just check on those places. We went to San Antonio one year and we did the off peak to stay at a nicer hotel, and we got an amazing deal on our hotel room. It was like $379 a night, the room, and we got it for I think like 125. And it was
Wow.
beautiful. It was like a luxury hotel. In fact, we were checking in the lobby, and Freddie Fender and his band were checking in right in front of us. Yeah,
Oh
it was
my
cool.
God.
This was like 25 years ago. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was fun. Yeah.
Wow.
The next one on the list is to set up travel alerts for special deals. And that's always good if you can go to like travel websites, or sometimes I think it was you, Priscilla, that was telling me the other day that there was agents are kind of few and
Mhm.
far between, but there are people now that are travel schedulers. It's kind of
Mhm.
sort of what the agents used to do that you can get help with. We do our travel stuff through the different credit card and shopping networks that we belong to. And you can set up alerts on those different ones. Like, for example, Costco, if there's a special on certain travel, you can request information, sign up for like alerts on those kind of things. I ended up signing up for alerts on cruise specials because we've said for years we wanted to go on a cruise. We've never been on a cruise. And as you know, all of our cousins go on cruises, and I'm jealous. And so I asked them, and they told us about a couple of different websites to sign up. And so we always get the cruise emails, and the cruises are unbelievably priced. I mean, you can't beat the prices for what you get. Livia was telling me that she read somewhere that old people are opting to not stay in like senior living places because they're so expensive. Instead, they're booking like 52 cruises a year, and they
Uh-huh.
just go from one cruise ship to
It's
another.
true. It's
Yeah.
true.
I saw something about that on Facebook where somebody was saying, "Oh, my parents decided they don't want to go in a nursing home. They're going to go to a hotel instead. It's cheaper because they get their breakfast included." And I found that a little hard to believe. I said, I think that probably a nasty hotel might be cheap enough to do that, but I don't think a nice one would be cheap enough. The other point is it's not going to replace a nursing home because there are not caregivers on site that can
Well, yeah.
assist you with your medical care and all. So I'm not sure how true that is, but the cruise ship thing, I definitely believe it would be cheaper than trying to rent an apartment at a senior living.
Yeah. Especially if you don't need anything more than assisted living, you know.
Exactly.
They fix you all your meals,
They make you
sometimes more
bad.
meals than you can eat.
Right. They make you bad. They give
Uh-huh.
you alcohol for free.
Probably don't need an appetite stimulant. You hit the all-night pizza bar.
You get exercise because on the cruise ship, there's like dancing and activities. Oh, yeah. I
Bonus,
don't
you
know. I
die
might have to
happy.
look into that. Maybe when we sell our house, we could just go on cruises one after another
Oh
instead of
Lord.
trying to find a new house.
I don't want you to leave me.
No, I am yeah, I'm very much needing a place to call home. We joked about it because AJ's one of somebody we knew bought a travel home, a mobile home. And AJ said, "Would I want to do that?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think so." Because for one, no matter how nice it is, I'm gonna want to get out of that thing and stay in a hotel
Yeah.
and go eat at restaurants. to me, part of the exciting thing about going on vacation is staying in a hotel and eating at fancy restaurants, eating in a mobile home and sleeping in a tiny little bed is not my idea of vacation.
Mhm.
I'm spoiled.
Me
Have you
too.
noticed?
I am too. Now I like it. I go for it. The next one is to embrace the art of itinerary planning. A carefully crafted itinerary is crucial for optimizing time and money during travel. So when you plan and you pre-schedule all of your little excursions, all your little visits to places and attractions and activities and stuff, you can avoid a lot of unnecessary travel costs and take advantage of special discounts when you are booking, when you book
Yeah, for
ahead.
sure.
When you're there and it's like, bam, you need to sign up for this, or you need to, get on a list for something or buy a ticket, you are paying full price up front. You don't get that opportunity to save money most of the time. So planning ahead is worth its, time. And they also say grouping attractions that are geographically close together reduces your travel time and your cost of getting around. So try and stick to one area at a time, and do like a different area each day or something if you're going, to another country, especially, and you don't really know your way around real well. Looking at a map ahead and figuring that out is good.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they have another idea is to also consider purchasing multi-visit passes that offer discounted access to several different sites, which I know you came across a few things like that when y'all went to New York.
Yes.
But sometimes you can find little bundles like that for different stuff. I know they have it here in the New Orleans area.
Yeah. We had, so one of the things we did was we have a lot of friends that have visited New York regularly or have lived there. And we asked all of them, send us whatever you want to send us. And we made a list of all of their recommendations. And I have to say, most people made multiple suggestions. And I think we went to at least one of each person's suggestions. But there were a couple of people that we went to almost everything they suggested. But we did kind of sort of what you're talking about with the going to all the places in the same area. Like we knew that Dennis, our friend Dennis, had recommended a cookie shop. He had also recommended, he said, this place has the best hamburgers in New York, and this place has the best pizza. So we knew like the pizza place was only a couple of blocks from our hotel. So we ended up eating there the first night that we were there because we knew we weren't going to want to go do anything too far. And the cookie place and the hamburger place we hit in the same day. We ate lunch at the hamburger place and then went to the cookie place to get the best chocolate chips in New York. It was fun.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
really cool stuff. And then, like you said, we checked with the concierge at the hotel. I hope I'm not jumping ahead and that was not on the list, but the concierge at the hotel was able to say to us, hey, look, with your hotel registration, you get $40, or no, I'm sorry. Yes, you get $40 toward meals in the hotel each day. So we were able to eat breakfast in the morning, and I think it was like $45 for AJ and I. Olivia is not a big breakfast eater. So AJ and I would go down and eat breakfast every day in the hotel. And I want to say it was like $45. So it only cost us like $5. And then the other thing was that the hotel offered these passes that you could get one attraction a day up to 3 or 4 passes. And so we were able to get free passes to go to one museum and free passes to go on the big bus in New York. We went on that for free. And these were things that cost 30 or $40 a person, some of them.
Wow.
So yeah, it was cool. So then another one is to use or consider alternative. I might have jumped ahead. No, I didn't.
No, that's okay.
Consider alternative accommodation options. So look into like Airbnb, vacation rentals that are not like a hotel, but more like housing accommodations, group places, or house swapping like they did in the holiday. That's kind of fun. But look into all of that. Just be sure to do your homework and make sure you know that the Airbnb you're staying at's legit and clean. And I've heard some horror stories about Airbnb, but I've also heard some horror stories from the part of the people that run the
Owners. Yeah.
Airbnb and what they've had to deal with. So you just have to make sure you get a good match.
Look for the reviews.
Yep.
Yeah. The next one is to use loyalty programs and points. So I know we used to be members of the Homewood Suites has I think it's part of the Hilton family of hotels, and so we used to stay there all the time because we had Hilton points, and those really, you can rack those up, and there's, you know, some of these things that you can get a credit card that when you spend money on your credit card and pay it off, you get points, and then you can save those points up for travel. I think Discover lets you do that with a lot of their points are good for travel things. And so you know, finding those kind of deals, and so a lot of the deals come directly from hotels or airlines and stuff. You can get you know, and you can stack these things and use multiple different companies, and you could get even free whole nights at hotels, or little upgrades like the free breakfasts or stuff. And if you sign up to get alerts and emails and stuff, you can kind of, especially if you know you're getting ready to want to travel, you want to get those emails and check them and actually read them, and not just say, oh, it's junk, and delete it. You got to look at them if you want to save that money. So that is a good opportunity to get some freebies and some reduced cost.
Oh, for sure. And then another one is to book accommodations that have a kitchen. So that way you can save some money with eating in. And a lot of times, especially if you're a family, that's a good option to do that. I mentioned that I myself, I like to go out to eat when we're on vacation, but you don't have to do it for every meal. You could bring things with you, or make a grocery run when you get there and eat breakfast in the hotel. Or we used to run to McDonald's when we'd go to Disney World, and we would do breakfast at McDonald's because we didn't want to go to Disney World and pay a fortune for breakfast there. So you can find ways to eat a little cheaper.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still a thing, but there was a hotel we stayed at. I want to say it was a Homewood Suites, but I could be wrong, where we found, I don't know if it was when we went to Disney, or if it was a different place that we went. We used to go to Tampa Bay a lot too, and we would go to Universal, which is, and SeaWorld when we lived in Florida. But we found a deal at one point where the hotel we were staying at, we were able to use our Hilton Honors points, plus they had free continental breakfast, and they had free, I don't think they called it continental dinner, but it was like light
Happy
dinner.
hour or something.
Yeah, it was some kind of, and it was in a specific period of time. It was a little earlier than we normally would eat, but we had little kids, and we didn't have, you know, they didn't have the stamina to stick it out at the hot theme park all day long. And, you know, we'd get tired too. And so we'd go back, we'd have the whole day, and we'd get our breakfast, go to the park early, get there at the beginning of the day, purchase lunch out at the park, then get back to the hotel early for the free dinner, which it was usually something cheap and quick, like hot dogs or spaghetti or something, but it was generally things that kids liked anyway. So it worked out really well for us. And so we would go back and we would eat, and then we would wait a little while and we would go swim in the pool, and it made a perfect day.
Oh,
So
that's
if you can
interesting.
find little deals like that.
Yeah, we used to stay at the Hampton Inn a lot when I traveled for work, and Hampton had breakfast, and it was nice because they even had eggs, and it wasn't just like a continental breakfast. And then in the evenings, they had a happy hour in the lobby. So it was hors d'oeuvres. It was kind of like meatballs and sandwiches, but they always had, you could eat a whole meal of it. It'd be just like going to a
Mhm.
party. So we only had to pay for our lunch, and we got per diem. So we made out well with our per diem. Okay. So then the next thing is to, oh, I think I'm raining on your parade, huh?
Yeah, I think I had started talking on yours, so
That's okay.
it's the next one is to eat like a local. So they're suggesting that if you eat where the locals eat and you step off the beaten path, the usual tourist places, then you can get authentic and flavorful meals, but at a fraction of the cost. And they're usually more economical because they cater to residents rather than the tourists, because they know who their audience is, their target audience. And if their target audience is you, the traveler, it's going to be more expensive.
When
So,
we were in New York, we ate from food trucks a few
mm,
times, and that was interesting. That we got hot dogs or um, ice cream from one food truck, just different things from food trucks. Oh, I ate so much that week. That was awful. Another one is to visit local markets. And so the local markets would be where you could get like affordable and fresh ingredients that if you are on a budget, you could bring back to your hotel and cook if you've gotten a kitchen
mm,
facility within your house. And sometimes, as long as you have access to kitchen facilities, that's a good thing. But if you're not planning to cook, markets offer an inexpensive way to sample specialties and delicacies. So you can go and try some samples and fill up on that. Kind of like people do at Sam's and Costco on Saturday. They go and shop and eat their way through Sam's.
well, and another thing is a lot of grocery stores now have food that is pre-cooked in the deli area.
Ooh, that's a good
Sandwiches,
point.
rotisserie chicken, which we just had the other night. So good. Potato salad. They got stuff in the cold
Yeah,
case
Whole
that's
Foods
already
does
prepared.
that. Yeah, I remember picking up soup from my mother-in-law when she was in the hospital from Whole Foods. And yeah, and we used to do the rotisserie chicken sometimes too from one of the groceries. I don't even remember which one it was,
Yeah.
Robert's or
And you can
yeah,
get it and it'll be hot. It'll still be hot. So you could go just take it back to your room and eat that. Or most rooms in hotels have microwaves at least. So you could zap it and have dinner that way. That'd be
for
a nice
sure.
cheap meal.
Yeah.
Another thing they suggest is to carry a reusable water bottle, which you ought to be doing that anyways, because everybody needs to stay hydrated, right?
Oh my
So,
gosh, the
but it,
hydration Nazi.
yeah, I know. Sorry. Not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. You must drink your water. So, and in most of the places in the world, tap water is pretty safe to drink. You need to know your area. Know where you're going to be, find out from other people, if the water is safe. And as long as it is, you can keep filling that guy up, and you won't be spending money on, vending and other stuff, in between meals. So you can, and staying hydrated, because when you're traveling, especially if you're doing these theme parks in the South and it's summertime, let me tell you, you need to stay hydrated because you will pass out.
The next group of ideas is all about transportation and how to save money on that while you're traveling. And the first one is to use public transport like trams, buses, trains, and all that. We did that in New York. I don't think we ever took a lift for anything except to go to and from the airport. And that was
Mhm.
because that was a long distance that we had to travel. But we had fun riding the subway. And I will say, you mentioned a few minutes ago asking locals about the water. Ask them about the transportation too, because we went the wrong way several times on the subway. We were struggling to figure out what was what and how to read the maps, and and we didn't understand there was a difference between the train and the subway. We thought they were the same and that people were just using different names for it, but there was a train and there was a subway. And then there was also buses. And AJ thought we should try a bus one day. And that turned out to be a nightmare because they stop on every corner. And we had to stand up the first like 20 minutes of the ride. And it was everything we could do to hang on and not fall over on top of somebody.
Ah,
Definitely ask the locals for help with that.
yeah, yeah, that's, I know, that when you're at Disney or Universal, taking advantage of those trams or the I forget, the shuttle buses, that's what they're called. The shuttle buses is really helpful because then you don't have to pay for parking, even if you drove to your location, then you don't have to pay for parking on site because it's really expensive. It's like $30 or $40 a day. And a lot of the times with your hotel, with your stay, the buses are automatically there. And so you just got to get on them. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to sign up. So make sure you keep an eye on that. But
Oh, for
those are
sure.
real handy. We use that a ton.
Yeah, and make sure that you know what, if you're getting like a package, make sure you understand what's included in your package, because
Mm,
I was thankful AJ read everything with, just very carefully. And he was able to say, oh, look, they provide transportation to and from the airport for us, but we have to
mm,
arrange it. And they gave us full instructions on how to do that. I mean, everything that we did in New York was taken care of primarily by Costco, with the exception of a couple of different attractions we went to that were outside the hotel list that the hotel had and provided passes for.
mm,
So the next one is consider renting a car. And that is a good thing to do, especially if you're traveling in groups, because you can split the cost of the car. But
mhm,
if we used to rent a car for business travel all the time. And I don't know how we would have done without it, because the location of the office we were going to was always at least 15 minutes away from where we were working and or where we were staying. And so we needed that rental car to get to and from work. And it also gave us the opportunity to go do some sightseeing on our own in the evenings. But we rented a car when we went to Portland. And in retrospect, we didn't really use the car a whole lot until like the last day. Or one
mm,
of the days, not the last day, but one of the days we drove to Seattle from Portland. So that rental car really helped with that. And I think we were glad we had it, but for the most part, it stayed in the hotel garage, and it was
mm,
expensive to park in the garage. So, and it was, believe it or not, very expensive to park on the street everywhere in Portland. So you got to look at that kind of stuff too. But if
mm,
it's economically smart, then definitely consider renting a car.
mm. Another thing to try, they suggest walking or using a bicycle. A lot of cities have the bikes that are on the street and that you can rent, and you use your credit card or whatever to do a rental. And then they have locations you can drop them off when you're done, so you don't have to go back to the original site. So, if you bike really far and you find another spot where you can park it in one of the special areas where that are designated for those, then you can take a cab back if you're too tired or whatever. Or, if you don't know how to ride a bike,
You can get Roy Kent to teach you, or no, Jamie Tart to
Get
teach you
Jamie
how to
Tart
ride
to
a bike.
teach you how to ride a bike. Yeah, I wouldn't mind, but still haven't really learned. But I like to drive. I like to get around as God intended in a car. That's a line from French Kiss, just saying.
Well, these are some general ideas to help save money, these next few ones, and some of them we've kind of mentioned already. So the first one is leverage free activities and attractions. So make sure you know what your hotel is offering. Make sure you find out about special attractions that you can get for free with other ones. I think Priscilla mentioned that one. And always research everything and look for those opportunities ahead of time, because once you get there, you're not going to want to be bothered looking things up.
Yeah.
Get your knowledge ahead of time. If you have to buy tickets and you can print them out at home ahead of time, do those things. Help save time and money.
Yeah, and once you get there, a lot of times the you're so travel exhausted that you're overwhelmed and it's hard to think straight. At least it is for me. So
Um,
having that plan is really good. Now, I will say that I don't like to over plan some things too much. I feel like in the past, some vacations we've been on, we had so many things we tried to cram in, it was too much. So maybe consider having some things that you don't necessarily pay for ahead. So if you want to cut a few things out here or there so that you're not completely exhausted by the time you get home. And so you can just walk around and be, you know, sometimes you just want to stroll.
yeah,
Strolling's fun too, especially if you've never been there. Another way to save money, you could travel light on your bags. And some places that's not going to be a thing. Some places you're going to want to, purchase things when you're there and you're going to come back laden with more stuff. So you want to, but you can pack light and you might be able to, wear things multiple times, or you might be able to find a place to do laundry halfway through your trip or something like that. I know when we went to Paris, we stayed in a little apartment that was it was a vacation rental, and it was an apartment, and it had the weirdest little washer dryer combo thing. It was one machine, and it would wash your clothes and then it would spin them almost dry, but then you had to hang them up. And we did laundry several times, but it was so tiny. It was the size of a microwave. So I had to do like 4 loads each time just to do a
that's
few.
crazy.
And blue
That's
jeans
crazy.
took forever to dry, and then they came out looking like cardboard. So, things to consider.
Yeah. So then the next one is to share expenses with fellow travelers. So team up with family members or friends and go together, and that way you can save money on accommodations um, and maybe even get group rates at certain things. So look for those opportunities.
And then you can opt for multi-city flights. So that means you can find cheaper fare than booking one-way tickets. Things with linked, flights or layovers or whatever can save you some money. I've even seen where people will suggest getting a long layover if it's in a city where you might like to see things, or have a restaurant you want to go to or something, to give you a little extra mini vacation amongst your vacation.
That's kind of cool. I've gotten stuck places before for hours, but I was always so afraid to leave the airport. I never thought of planning for that, like planning a long layover, but that's interesting. I like that idea. And then another one is that you can use travel apps and online resources to manage your travel expenses. And when we went to Portland, I had a spreadsheet that I was tracking all our reservations for different shows. Or no, I'm sorry, it was when we went to Branson, because we had bought tickets to various different shows. And so I had this spreadsheet that said, this is the tickets. This is on this night. We have this show at this theater. Here's the address. Here's what time we have to be there. Here's what we need to wear, and this is where we're going to dinner. And I had everything planned. I will say about planning is we talked about doing your agenda. Make sure you leave time in there to rest.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's like I was saying, if you over schedule yourself, just like in normal life when you're at home, you're gonna get burnt out and you're gonna be dragging the rest of the trip, which I frequently have found myself in that position, not because I was the one planning.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Well, those are
just
all
sort it
great
out.
ideas.
Yeah, I got one more. I got a bonus one.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things that are to save money, lots of ways that are money saving things you can partake in, but that are geared to travel. But there's one that you can save money in all different kind of places, including travel, and that's being a member of AARP. So if you are 50 years or older, for very cheap, you can be a member of AARP, and you can get special deals, not on everything, but sometimes they have some really good travel ones. So like
Yeah.
cruises and whatnot, but you can check that out. That's always good. I'm keeping my eyes on it. We have travel
Yeah,
plans.
Costco does that too, with travel packages. And I'm trying to think of who the other organization was that we belong to that did that. AAA
Mm.
has some travel stuff too. Travel
Anything
advantage.
like your insurance company. Because I was on my insurance website, I was trying to find something else, and I saw an article, because they have little articles that they put on the website, and there was a little article about saving money or special deals on travel insurance or stuff like that. So check out all of the companies that you are affiliated with. Go to their website, and just scroll through real quick and see what they got, because they might have something that you don't even know.
That's a good idea. That really is.
Yeah.
Well, we also have some tips to reduce stress while traveling, and those look really interesting. And one of them is sort of repetitive of what we've talked about already, to make sure you plan your trip. But it says make sure you find a comfortable routine in planning your journey, and even planning the small things can alleviate any anxiety that you have. So come up with a deadline to like schedule the flight, work on your itinerary, pack your bags, and have a good plan. And it does reduce your anxiety about the trip. I think we talked about this when we went to New York. I don't think I ever travel stress-free. I'm always so stressed out. And a lot of times it has to do with who's with us. So when it's just AJ and I know that we can kind of fly by the seat of our pants, and if we forget clothes, we can go buy them, or whatever. Not that we're rich, but we would go someplace cheap and get what we needed. But when you have other people with you, it's a little nerve-wracking. Even like for us, when Liv was with us, we were so stressed making sure she had a good time. We wanted desperately for her to have a good time in New York, because the trip was for her graduation. And she finally said, you guys need to just enjoy yourself and stop trying to make me happy. I will be happy. I'm already happy. I'm enjoying the trip. Stop bending over backwards trying to keep me happy. And we said, okay. And we decided not to stress over it anymore, because she's so socially anxious. There were things that we wanted to do that she didn't want to do, but we felt like, oh, we shouldn't leave her at the hotel by herself. But she was perfectly happy sometimes just staying at the hotel, because socially, she likes that downtime, and she needs to rebuild her energy. It takes her more energy to do all these public things. So that's part of my stress, is worrying about everybody else.
Yeah. And I think in planning, one of the things you can do is to have a notebook or somewhere in the notes app on your phone or something like that. Have a place where you write down things you think of leading up to the trip so that, because sometimes there's so many things that it's hard to keep track and you'll forget things you want to do or places you want to go. And so making little lists like that, sites you want to hit, or, um, making sure, organizing it written down, not necessarily on paper, but somewhere written down, a list
Yeah.
of things you want to do and then where they are and grouping them like they said in the other article and stuff like that. I think that's always good, especially if you're very scattered and busy leading up to, because you
Yeah.
can lose a lot of that stuff that you thought of just because you didn't nail it down someplace.
Yeah.
And another thing that's important to do is to give yourself extra time before and after your flight. And they say, everybody's tolerance and patience is different. And flying, things can get interrupted. It can be very exhausting. You can end up sitting around an airport for hours unplanned, having a contingency plan is good. I know we've had several things happen. We got stuck overnight in a hotel one time because our flight got canceled, or we missed our connecting flight because our other flight got delayed or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We had to, and sometimes the airline is real helpful about helping you figure out what to do, and sometimes they aren't. And we got bumped from a flight going to Hawaii one time, and our connecting flight in Kauai, I think, was not we missed our connecting flight, and then there was not another one from the airline we were flying. And we had to run that, nobody was helping us with it. We had to run all over airport and locate an airline that was flying to the Big Island, and we ended up having to take a puddle jumper to Maui and then back. It was craziness. And there was another time flying from Paris, and I was very pregnant and extremely exhausted, and we got stuck. Same kind of thing. Our flight got canceled or something, and we had to get a different flight, and we were just in line or sitting around for hours. And so, planning for that is important, and having extra time before you need to get there in case there's traffic, things like that. We were driving home from Baton Rouge one time, and traffic was at a standstill because there was an accident. And in the Waze app, which is the map app that people can input, if they see stuff going on, there were people commenting and panicking because they were trying to get to the New Orleans airport. And, you can get stuck real easy, especially if you got to go over bridges or whatever. If something happens and everything gets blocked, you're kind of screwed. So, give yourself that extra time to get there. Sometimes you can't, sometimes you've got back-to-back things. There's a comedian I really like, Josh Johnson. He had a show scheduled in Houston for like 5 o'clock yesterday, and his flights kept getting canceled. And the venue actually changed his show time to 11:30 to accommodate him, which was really nice. But think about that. If you're planning to go to a 5 p.m. comedy show and you can't go until 11:30 at night, yikes, right? And then also, when you arrive, you want to be able to have some downtime before you set off and do any activities. Like you said, when y'all got to New York, you just wanted to go and have your pizza and sack out in the hotel room. I think that's a good plan, is the first, especially if you're arriving in the evening somewhere, don't plan to do anything other than rest the first
Yeah.
night. I would
Yeah, for
take
us,
it easy.
and so the next one is talking about the flights. So it's exactly what you were talking about. It's getting
Oh,
there
I'm sorry, I
early.
got ahead.
No, that's okay. I was gonna say, like for us, we took an early morning flight. I think our flight was like at 5 a.m. or something along those lines, which
Mm.
getting to the airport 2 hours before that meant we had to get there for 3. And since we're about an hour from the airport, meant we had to leave our house at 2.
Mm.
And so it was an all-nighter for us. And so when we got to New York the next afternoon, we arrived there like at noon or 1 o'clock. And then by the time we got to our hotel from the airport, it was rush hour traffic. It was, well, not rush hour, but it was busy traffic time. And so it took us over an hour to get to our hotel. And
Mm.
then we were starving because we hadn't eaten breakfast except for what they gave us on the plane. And that wasn't a whole lot. And it was just like cookies or whatever. It wasn't like a meal, it was just a snack. And so what we did was we dropped our luggage in the lobby of the hotel. Our room wasn't ready yet. And we went and ate lunch at the hotel in one of the restaurants. And I was so thankful for that food. We were so hungry. And then we went to our hotel room and slept because we hadn't slept since the day before. So we slept for like 3 hours and then we got up and went to dinner and came back to the hotel and went to bed early. So it was nice, but we, made sure that we got our rest. And then the other thing I was going to mention was that if you have to pay attention to the fact that if you don't allow that extra time in case something goes wrong, then you could be in big trouble. Like with us, we did fine getting to the airport. We drove our car and we parked at the airport. But you may recall that when we came back from New York, we picked our car up and had car trouble on the way home from the airport. And I remember looking at AJ and saying, what would we have done if this car trouble had been at 2 o'clock in the morning on the way to the airport?
Mm-hmm.
We were able to pull off the interstate and go into a restaurant and let our car cool off. It was overheating. We let it cool off while we were eating dinner. And then the manager there helped us add water and check the radiator. And then we were just super careful going home. And we had gallons of water in the car to fill our radiator if we needed to. But what would we have done if that had happened at 3 o'clock in the morning? We probably would have had to go park our car somewhere and then maybe hide the keys or something. I don't know what we would have done. Just maybe leave our car and catch a lift from there to the airport. I don't know. And then we would have to leave our car somewhere. That would be scary. So yeah, definitely need to be careful about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't assume the worst, but be realistic because you don't know. And another thing they suggest to help with the stress is to have something to look forward to when you get home. So when you come home from that long trip, you can be worn out. It's like everybody says, I need a vacation from my vacation, According to a 2010 study, that people don't always feel better when they get home. Vacationers were consistently happier when they looked forward to a trip compared to when they got back. So to help alleviate that, you can plan something enjoyable. So it might mean before you leave, make sure your house is clean and organized, because coming home to a messy, chaotic house is really unpleasant and it can be draining. Or having whatever your rest of your day is like the first night back or whatever, or even 2 days back, like having your meals planned out, maybe have some stuff you put in the freezer to heat up, or plan to, order in or something, whatever it is, the first day or two, once you get back, and don't plan to have to do anything major. I mean, when you get back from a trip, you always need to do laundry and do the unpacking and stuff. Try and give yourself a buffer time in which you can just crash on the couch and be a, a couch potato.
For sure. And I was going to say, one of the things you can do too, well, I have a couple of ideas. I mean, you know that I'm like that about when I travel, my house has to be clean before I leave.
Mhm.
I mean, in my mind, it's because I do enjoy coming home to a clean house, but in my mind, it's like if somebody breaks in and I have to have one of my family members go over and secure the place, I want my house clean because I don't want them walking in on a mess and going, did the robbers do this or are they just slobs?
Or you could be like me and it frequently looks like robbers have broken in. And
But the other thing is, pack your things that you need to have the night that you get home all in one bag so that when you get
toiletries, yeah.
home, if you do not feel like unpacking, because I know from one of our trips, we got back like late at night. And I'll never forget, I had to go through my suitcase to get like my facial stuff and my
Toothpaste.
toothbrush and my toothpaste. And I was digging through the bag looking for all that stuff. Well, on our last trip, I packed all of we had 3 suitcases, one for each of us. And we used Olivia's suitcase specifically for all of our toiletries and hairspray and everything that we knew we would need. And then we put some clean clothes in there too that we knew we didn't need to wash. Those were clean. We hadn't worn them.
Mhm.
So we just opened her suitcase and grabbed all our toiletries and grabbed the clean clothes and just stuck them in the drawers, easily enough. And we left this 2 other suitcases that had all our dirty clothes from all 3 of us in
Mhm.
them and didn't even touch them until the next day. And I wanted to say when I'm semi-retired, so I don't really have to stress over going back to work. But I will say that when I was working, one of the things that I did was I would always schedule a day of vacation at least so that I could have at least one day off when I got back. Because the worst thing in the world is to get back from a vacation on a Sunday night and have to go into work Monday morning after having a wonderful vacation and then have to go home and kind of unpack and get up for work the next morning. Give yourself that extra day or weekend if you can to unpack and wash all the clothes and do something nice for yourself. Even though our car was giving us trouble on the way home from the airport, I really enjoyed the fact that we stopped and ate dinner on the way home.
Mm.
For one thing, I was starving. And then for another thing, I knew my house was clean and we were coming home to a clean house and it wasn't going to get dirty because we weren't going to cook. We were just going to come home and maybe have a cup of coffee and go to bed,
Yeah. No
Uh,
responsibility once you hit the door.
right, right. So I enjoyed the fact that we ate dinner out and then came home and we're full and all we had to do was relax and have our evening snack or whatever and go to bed. We didn't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And we were off the next day, so that was nice too.
Yeah. I like the tip about keeping your clean and dirty laundry separate. A lot of times if you're only packing a small amount, everything's going to be dirty. But most people have a tendency to pack a little bit extra stuff just in
Yes.
case something tears or you spill on yourself or whatever, or you get sweaty. You want to have extra stuff. And I know with us, with all the kids, we'd have multiple bags. So when the time came to leave, I would pick, I'd see how big of a pile of clean stuff we have, and I'd go look at all the bags we had, and I'd pick the bag that matched the size for that pile of items.
Yeah.
Everything else dirty would go in the other baggage. But if you're a single person traveling or a couple and you have one big suitcase, you can't really separate stuff like that, but you can bring a plastic bag or you can bring some grocery bags or a garbage bag
Yeah.
to put the dirty stuff, because that, that funky laundry smell is going to spread to everything else in the bag. And if you don't want that to
Exactly.
happen, then just a
And
little
another little
clarier
tip,
there.
associated with that is that if if you have the dirty laundry and you have a bag to put it in. If you don't, a lot of times the hotels have bags hanging in the closet be used for dry clean. And so if you need a bag, you could always use that bag, right? Sometimes they have extra trash bags in the bottom of the trash can that you can grab a trash bag and use that.
Mm.
And then take one of the bars of soap that you have been using on your trip, the hotel, little bar hotel soap, and stick it in the bag with the dirty clothes, and it helps with the odor.
Just make sure you take it out before you throw it all in the washer.
This is true. You don't want to wash that bar of soap in there.
Be like
True.
I Love Lucy with the foam.
The
Oh, is that a
bubbles
movie?
everywhere.
Not one of those things.
Well, I think everybody's ready to travel now. So if you have reservations you want to make um, for the coming, I lost my train of thought. If you have reservations you want to make for the holidays, you're all set. You can use our tips and
Mhm.
have great money saving techniques and planning,
Yep.
great planning tips. So great
Yeah,
way
you need to be
to,
booking things now for holidays, or even, come September, October, you need to be booking next summer. That's,
this is true. Book early.
yeah, keep your eyes peeled for those deals.
Yeah, you found out about that, huh? You have to book early at some of these places.
Yep.
Well, that was awesome. Good travel tips. Who knew that we knew so much? Who knew that we could research so well?
Well,
We had a lot of extra to share. All right. So do you have marinade for us
I
today?
do. I do. I will keep it brief. This is another one that comes from our sarcastic Lutheran friend, Nadia Boltz Weber. She's awesome.
Love her.
She has a blog she does weekly, and she wrote this past week about someone wrote to her and shared that they were going through a really difficult time. They were in the hospital and they just were feeling kind of like, why me? And is God really with me in all of this? And she decided to make it a two-part blog post, and she responded to the first half of the woman's concern that she was feeling like, why me? And she just said that her sister had, a lot of times, like we were talking about earlier, a lot of times you don't just have one major horrible thing going on, you have two.
Yeah.
And her sister lost her son, and a couple of months later was diagnosed with cancer and had to go through treatment. And so she was already grieving, and then now she's got this health thing. And the way she was able to, something that helped her, it wasn't the only thing that helped her get through all of that, but something that changed her attitude and her mindset about it was not long before her son died. She had a friend who was going through hard things, and she had been talking to her, and she said, I know it's really hard for you. You must be wondering why, why is this all happening? And she said, well, I used to think, why me? But then I thought, why not me? And what she meant was, when you have good things, in your life, when your life is going well and you see other people suffering, sometimes you need to think, you know, that could be me, but it's not. I have this positive in my life right now. So sometimes, when things do happen to us, why should it, if these bad things happen to other people too, why should it not happen to us? Everybody has things that come up, and terrible things happen to people, and we all have to deal with them. And, and I'm sure in the next post, she'll be telling us exactly how God is with us in those times. But sometimes, next time you start to think, why me? And next time I start to think, why me? Because I do it. I think we should try to think, this is just one of those times that it could be happening to somebody else. Why not me?
Yeah.
Do it.
And sometimes it's not happening for our growth. Sometimes it's about what God does through us.
Mm.
You know, I think we've talked about that, you know, people watching you with the struggles that you've been through, become stronger for having witnessed that, you know, and their faith is stronger. And I think
And
that's something, you know,
yeah,
worthy.
and you too, you've been through so much, and people look at you and say, you know, you're inspiring to them because of how you were able to handle so many situations with patience and grace and everything. And it's not that we're trying, we're not virtue signaling over here, we're just trying to live. But just doing what you have to do and living your life and not giving up is all it takes to inspire somebody.
For sure. Yeah. Mm. And you know, that age-old question of why do bad things happen to good people? It's God never promised us that this life was going to be pain-free. The world is full of sin, and we suffer the effects of that. And you know, it's
Yeah.
our glory home is beyond this earth, beyond
Yeah.
this life, you know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
100%.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Next week is, well, this episode drops on the 14th, and then the following Sunday is the 21st. And the 21st is National Senior Citizens Day. Not that we know any senior citizens, but we're going to share with everyone some tips for getting free stuff or discounts or
Talk about AARP some more.
really, you'll learn more about AARP and Wendy's discounts and Chick-fil-A discount and any of these places that offer discounts. We're going to try to find out where they all are and share them with you.
How old you gotta be?
We can also take advantage of them and when we're old enough.
Yeah, I can't get everything yet, but
Yeah,
I can
you not
live.
yet. And I can qualify for most things, but not all. But it's the one good thing about getting older, right? About growing up is
There's
that
gotta
we
be
can,
some kind of perks.
yeah, got to be some benefit to getting old. Well, we'll share all that with you next week when we come back. But until then, make yourself a priority.
And take care of you.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Thanks for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to keep up on all the latest sauce. See you next time.